Alright guys, welcome back to another video on WeMTB, and today I'm going to be talking about how to do a pre-ride bike check to check if your bike is all tightened down, and the concept of torque. Two very important things to know as a mountain biker, which are very easy to forget about and slip up with. The first thing I'll be talking about is torque. So what is torque? Torque is basically the concept of how much you are tightening a bolt or how much torque or pressure you are applying. So the most typical kind of torque that people use on bikes at least is Newton meters. So Newton meters is the unit of measurement for how much pressure you're applying and how much you're tightening a bolt. And torque is pretty important on parts so you don't strip out screws or break things. If you over torque something or over tighten it, then you could strip the screw. You could also probably break the part or clamp it too hard on your bike and damage a part of your bike, or it's just not safe. And if you under torque something, it's going to wiggle around, it's not going to be safe, and something could fall off your bike, which you never want happening. That's terrible. So both are pretty bad, so you want to get the right amount. So there's a tool called a torque wrench, which I do have. So talking about torque, I'm going to show you in these clips that are going to follow how much some basic torque amounts are using this wrench, using an actual Allen key, so you can have a general gauge of how much torque you need, how much pressure you need to apply to get the right torque on a part. And typically on a part like grips, I actually just installed some new grips on my bike, you're going to need about 4 to 5 Newton meters. Alright, so a few common amounts of torque that you're going to need to apply on your bike are 4, 5, and 6 Newton meters. And just with an Allen wrench, here is basically the amount of pressure you need to apply. So if you can still semi-easily twist it, 4 Newton meters. If you can twist it but with not too much strain, but it's still difficult, then that's about 5. And if it leaves an imprint on your hand, that's about 6 with a multi-tool. And as time goes on, you will probably get a better sense for how much pressure you need to apply for the right torque. I have an okay sense of it, but there are people that can be almost as accurate as a torque wrench just by using feel. But as you start installing more new things on your bike and start doing more and more difficult repairs, you're probably going to want to invest in a torque wrench, because there's some things that you have to be very accurate about, like installing a cassette. You can't just slap it on, put an Allen key in it, and lock it down. You aren't going to be able to do that for some repairs. So now, talking about a pre-ride bolt check, this is probably one of the most important things in mountain biking. You never want anything to come loose on your bike, because if something comes loose, then you could fall off your bike, get into a serious crash, even break a bone, get admitted to the ER. You really don't want that happening. So one of the most important things to do on a bike is to check your bolts. And there's a few major points that you really want to check before almost every ride, especially after you first get your bike and take it on 2 rides. It's gonna work into being a bike, because it hasn't been ridden before, so you're really going to want to check your bolts after those, or else something could really fall off. So the first thing that you're going to want to take a bolt check on is your stem/headset, because if this comes loose, then your handlebars fly off, and also all of this disconnects, and that basically, and also your everything goes wrong if your stem and handlebars come loose, basically. So that's the most important place to check. You also want to check your grips, because if those come loose, then it's not going to be a fun day out in the trail, because you are going to lose your grip and fly over your handlebars, or just go careening off the mountain. You also want to check your shift/brakes, because if those come loose, it's a pretty simple fix, but you really don't want those to be too loose, or else it's gonna be hard to shift and brake, and they're gonna be moving around and stuff. Also, you always want to check your pedals. So your pedals are also very important, because if your pedal falls off or if it's loose, then you're not going to be able to, then you're most likely going to lose your footing and go flying somewhere, and you're not going to be able to ride your bike either unless you can make a repair on the trail. Also, this one isn't a bolt, but you also always want to just check your axles, because those need to be tight, otherwise your wheel can either fall off or start shaking around, and that can really put you into like a very bad situation. You never want to lose a wheel or have something loose. So now that we've talked about what you should really be checking before you go mountain biking, I'm going to show you a little time lapse of me doing this, because I haven't actually checked my bolts in a while, and my bike is probably actually pretty loose in all of those spots, so yeah. Two together, we can really get a good sense of how to do the most simple kind of repair on our bike. And I hope that you learned something today, or at least you were entertained by this video, and I'll see you next time.